Alright, so this is my review on Captain Marvel, and I kind of figure before I begin, I should probably lay all my bias on the table. So I'm a Marvel fan. I've been reading Marvel comics since I was about 16, and even to this day, whenever I get new Marvel comics, it's like a really exciting experience for me. I just love opening up a new comic and getting through the new story. And I've been a big fan of the MCU since it began with Iron Man back in 2008. And even though some of the films haven't been amazingly great, I still enjoy them all on some level or another. And beyond that, I'm also a person who online has been called an SJW. And personally, I don't see that as an insult. Now I know that's going to create issues for some people who do see it as an insult, but that's just my particular perspective. That, to me, there's lots of things there that get bound up in that identity that I don't think are bad. I think they're very good things. I don't know how particularly that phrase become negative, but that's a whole other discussion. So right now, with all that laid out, let's take a look at what I thought of Captain Marvel. Now, I'm going to keep this review as spoiler-free as possible. It's going to be hard because I feel many parts of the film really need to be known in their entirety to truly discuss, but perhaps I'll do a video diving further into all of that later on. So, as of the day following my initial viewing, my first impression of the film is a rather positive one. Frankly, I loved it. As far as a film goes for me to enjoy, this one hit it on the head. But let's take a look at the pieces of the film and what does and doesn't work there. Now, one of the things that really stands out about the film immediately is the use of the 90s as a setting. Now, using the 90s actually feels really clever for a few reasons. Obviously, for positioning a new hero in the MCU, it works, since it gives Captain Marvel a place to exist without anything else in that universe weighing down on it, such as how Guardians of the Galaxy had more breathing room due to its almost entirely cosmic setting. The 90s also works as many people in a large chunk of the audience's demographic range, late 20s through late 40s, will have strong and largely positive memories of the period, giving a nice nostalgic hit from the film. The music played heavy into this, as it seemed everyone who sat near me was excited as each song began to play and it clicked a memory in their brain. Of course, there's also a downside to this, as the film sometimes feels as though it was trying a little hard to justify the setting, most often by playing a song without context. The film also feels a little bit like a product of the 90s in some ways, such as how it was shot and edited, and that also comes with its positives and negatives. Yet the setting also helps play into the story in many ways. Honestly, I'm not sure this story could have played out quite the same in the modern day, especially not the modern day MCU. It needed the 90s, not only for certain elements to work, but also to help place some of the themes of the film under a microscope of the times and also the world that would come after it. Though I do feel many of the themes were not as deeply explored as they could have been, and led to many missed opportunities. The story itself can be a little misshapen at times, with shifts in pacing that may seem really odd. Thankfully, at least for me, the cast helped me to overlook any of these basic story issues. Of course, we have to talk about Brie Larson first, for her role as the titular Captain Marvel. Larson brings a certain determination and also thoughtfulness to the character that helps build strong character moments that may otherwise have fallen flat. She also has great chemistry with other cast members, particularly Samuel L. Jackson and Lashana Lynch. There are a few moments that don't quite work with her, particularly a few of the more comedic moments, and that seems to be a result of her going outside what she's really skilled at. Though this may improve with future appearances as they work out both the character and ease Larson in the different things, sadly it does hurt the character in this particular film. The supporting cast does really hold the film in a lot of places. Jackson is charismatic as always and was clearly having fun playing a different version of Fury. He certainly has come a long way since he first appeared, back when Fury was essentially him playing himself with an eye patch. Lashana Lynch is a real joy as Maria Rambeau as well, bringing a real warmth and punch to her scenes which left me wanting more. I also wanted more of Clark Gregg Coulson, who was always so likable that it seemed a crime every time he left the scene. Jude Law was sadly a little lacking, even if he was still charismatic. He just didn't bring anything really special to his role, and I wouldn't be surprised to find you could switch it with his role as Dumbledore and it wouldn't really change things that much. Really, all members of Star Force sadly felt undervalued, which feels as though it was a result of having such an already packed film. Ben Mendelsohn as the Skrull General Talos was a real standout for me though. I love the Skrulls in the comics and I was so excited to see them on screen. What I got was not quite what I expected, but I think it made me love it even more than what I was thinking it was going to be. Mendelsohn really brought something great to the Skrull leader, making him mysterious and sinister, yet still with a touch of familiarity. He stole every scene he was in, and it was wonderful to see. Perhaps some of his moments undercut the flow of the scene itself, but I never found myself really caring that much. And then we come to Goose the cat. Everybody has been raving about the cat, and rightly so. It's such a thrill to see an animal co-star be so gripping on screen and to find yourself wanting to follow their particular story. There was one moment played for laughs I felt didn't quite land right for me, but the rest of the audience seemed to enjoy it, so that was probably just me. Something that did land well was the action. Marvel Studios films certainly have a formula to their action, and that's mostly because they develop one that works and delivers. Even if it isn't always the most incredible of sights, it's still solid enough to keep you in. The final fight sequence does become a bit of a CGI light show, and oddly I feel the answer to that would have been more of it. That going harder on the final fight would have made it feel more satisfying by the end. I will congratulate them on creating an origin film that feels different. Now, honestly, the parts themselves, when taken analytically, are actually quite stock standard for an origin film, but the way they are pieced together creates something that feels greater than its individual pieces. Also, similar to Wonder Woman, this film is a great place for inspiration, particularly for children. It speaks a message of never giving up and never being afraid to question or go against the status quo of the world around you. And despite the fear-mongering of some that it would be bloated with feminist agenda, it never does so in a way that is preachy or even really that noticeable. The only real way it's feminist is that Carol is female and she moves with her own agency and purpose, and that's really just what a good character should do. Okay, so this wasn't the most in-depth review I could have done of the film, but it is just my initial thoughts after just seeing it last night. There are certain elements of this movie that I feel really have to be analysed within the broader scope, especially in understanding the entirety of the story. So if I do go and do an analysis of this film later on, I'll be able to dive into that stuff a little bit more there. Basically, I enjoyed this movie. I really enjoyed this movie more than leading into it. Like, I wanted to love this movie for a long time. Then in the week or so beforehand, I started to get a little nervous, and some of the reviews were a bit, they couldn't agree on what they thought was right or wrong, and that left me nervous. And then when I saw the film, all that went away, and I really enjoyed myself. And I do feel it's a movie that, if you're not 100% about seeing it, if you're still sitting on the fence, maybe just take a shot and go see it. I tend to say that about a lot of things. Like, I hated Suicide Squad, but when people asked me what I thought, I told them, I said, I don't like it, and blah, blah, blah. But by all means, go see it, because I cannot tell you what you will think of a movie, and that has always been my philosophy. And especially about reviews in general, I can't tell you what to think. You, no matter what, if I don't think the story's quite right or the music choice is bad, that doesn't change what you think of the film. If you enjoy it and don't even see any of that, that's totally fine. That's just how it's how entertainment goes. So I think there is a thing to just going and seeing a movie like this. Or if you're still I don't want to go spend the money because it is expensive, maybe find someone who did see it that you trust the opinion of and just ask them. It's a good way to find out kind of what it feels. Because this movie, to me, it really feels like a film that you can go see and different people will take something different away from it. Whether that's good or bad, they will get something different from it. And that's what I think is reflected in the variety of the reviews. And the fact that they can't agree on what's good and what's bad about it is because, or whether things are even there or not, it's because they're getting different things. It's a movie that really plays on that somehow. And I honestly I would like to investigate that further, why it's sort of doing that with people. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you agree with the review, or if you like the review, leave a like. And if you have opinions, if you liked it, didn't like it, let us know what you thought of the film yourself down below. I know there's a lot of issues bound up in controversy, and I don't expect everyone to agree with each other on anything. But please, I'd like you to keep it civil. I know, there's been places I've seen where it hasn't been, and I'm hoping that at least here we can keep it that way. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already, so that way you can see more content. Yeah, more of this, there's video games, everything, so there's always something for you to kind of enjoy. Alright, thanks guys, and I'll see you guys later. Now, it was around this time that the want to see number on Rotten Tomatoes began to fall. Originally being above 90%, it dropped more and more until it now sits above 50%. Now, lots of people claim certain reasons why it dropped, but as I said, I'm not going to get into that, and I'm just looking at the numbers. Now, this combined with the tracking drop does seem